So in the previous years, I've spoken to you about how American data fits into the global mobility scene. And the only way we really can know that is by bringing together researchers from all of the major host and sending countries and making sure that we can compare data that is based on the same definition and the same time period. There are many data sources like UNESCO and OECD, and each of them has a slightly different slice of the picture. You'll see here the partners in Project Atlas, which is a project supported by the US Department of State and by our international partners. The blue areas represent partners participating in Project Atlas. There's still a lot of room on the map for other partners, so if you know of any major host or sending countries that are not shaded in blue, we'd love to get suggestions for researchers or national organizations that can help us fill out the map. I've talked in the past about the fact that these international partners, we often talk about them as competitors, which of us can get more students and which of us can get the best and the brightest students. But in fact, the number of students who want an international education is growing so rapidly that in many ways we have a common challenge and we need to work together to find out how to meet the needs of these exploding numbers of international students who want an opportunity to study abroad. So originally, here's the exploding pie. Originally, when we first started collecting this data or looking at this data, back in 1975, there were less than 1 million students studying outside their home country. Now there are over 4 million students studying outside their home country, and projections from OECD are that in 2025 there will be 8 million students studying outside their home country. So we really need to think about how we're going to accommodate all of these students and whether there are seats in our classrooms or whether we're going to have to develop new forms, as is already, as you know, being developed, MOOCs and joint degrees and so on. Where are these students going? So we've listed the top host countries, and you'll see, of course, that the United States continues to host by far the largest number of international students. And there's, the growth has been very large in coming to the United States, and also very large growth in numbers of students coming to China as a host destination. Most of us in this room probably think of China mostly as a sending destination, but in fact, it's a very large host destination, and Canada also had considerable growth. What's interesting is that column far on your right that shows where those countries receive most of their students from. And you'll see that China, India, and South Korea figure very prominently in most of those countries as the top senders. In China, amazingly, at least for me, the US is the second largest sender of students to China. This is really incredible, and I think partly a testament to the very vigorous efforts both by the Chinese government and the US government to encourage study in China through the 100,000 Strong Initiative. For France, they continue to receive many students from their former colonies in North Africa. Germany continues to receive many students from Turkey and from Russia, and Australia has always recruited actively in Southeast Asia. As Rajak had said earlier, many American campuses still have plenty of room to host more international students, and Assistant Secretary Ryan also referred to this fact. Because we have such a huge and diverse higher education community, over 4,000 institutions of many different types, international students here, despite the fact that they are almost 820,000, they just represent less than 4% of our total enrollments. Other countries already are beginning to see international students as 20 or 25% of their of their total enrollments, such as Australia. So we have a lot of room to grow. Some of the trends that are driving international education and the desire for international education have been touched on by several of the speakers already. The national scholarship programs. Many developing countries or rapidly globalizing countries know that they want to expand their knowledge economies, and they want to jumpstart really the ability of their young people to participate in international research and in international collaboration. And so they've launched their own scholarship programs. Brazil, we've mentioned Kuwait, Iraq, Saudi Arabia are among the biggest 4 supporters of these international programs. And really what they're deciding is they're going to invest part of their economy now so that they can really transform that economy later through the skills and the understanding and the better English that their students will bring back after study in the United States. And the United States continues to be the largest recipient of students from these various scholarship programs. Then there are other countries that have also taken the approach of offering scholarships to international students to come to their country's universities. And this, in a way, accomplishes similar things. They're trying to internationalize their classrooms. They're trying to make sure that their students see how other students behave, how they study, get to know them. As Assistant Secretary said, the value of sitting together in classrooms really will transform the way people interact as professionals and as world leaders in the future. So China, Germany, Malaysia, among many others, have launched scholarship programs to attract international students to their countries. There are several bilateral and multilateral partnerships that are emerging. I might just mention a few. The 100,000 Strong initiative that we've referred to before, both for China, which is primarily focused on getting more Americans to study in China, because we don't seem to have a problem attracting Chinese students to the United States, and 100,000 Strong for the Americas, in which we're trying to increase to 100,000 the number of students in both directions, Americans going there and international Latin American students coming here. And Christine showed us that that bar is actually evening out more or less in terms of the flows in both directions. There's also a very exciting initiative that has just recently been launched called the US-UK Global Innovation Initiative, supported by the Department of State and also by the British Council, in which researchers from these two countries and from another country come together for a trilateral joint research effort looking at some of the really challenging global problems. And so the partnerships have to be between a US institution, a UK institution, and an institution in either China, Brazil, India, or Indonesia. So any of you who represent higher education institutions, get those applications in. The deadline is coming up very soon. Some of the other global trends that have been mentioned already, increase in online learning. Not everybody is going to be able to study outside their country. Either they have financial limitations, they may have linguistic challenges, or it just may be that travel is not that easy from that country. So the growth of MOOCs, these massive open online courses, and online degree programs. There's a very exciting initiative that the State Department announced recently where, and maybe you'll have questions about this later to ask the State Department representatives, where they're offering Coursera courses to students all over the world and setting up little learning hubs in US embassies or in American centers where students can come together to watch, participate in these online courses and have some on-site facilitation by faculty or visiting Fulbrighters or whatever. Joint and dual degree programs have jumped considerably. That's where a local institution partners with perhaps an American or European institution and offers that degree in country for their students and also for students from the other country to participate. So there are many Americans studying in China with Chinese counterparts in these joint and dual degree programs. And finally, a dramatic rise in the number of degrees offered in English around the world. Not just because Americans can't speak foreign languages, although that's certainly an important benefit for us, but also for students from all over the world who want to study in another country but don't speak that language. The common language now pretty much is English for these new degree programs. 38% increase in such programs in Europe from the last time IIE did a report on that in 2011, and we've just put out an updated report and seen this huge increase, particularly in Italy and France, but certainly the number in Germany has grown very dramatically, and in China it's growing in many other countries. And finally, I want to look at some of the political and economic factors that impact educational mobility. We all know the increased global demand for higher education, and sometimes there are domestic pressures, sometimes there are international pressures, but that's what produces that exploding pie that I showed earlier. There is also some of these new emerging economies. We used to talk about the Southeast Asian tigers and the East Asian dragons. Apparently the latest acronym is the CIVETS, new to me, but somebody pointed this out. I guess it was in The Economist. Colombia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Egypt, Turkey, and South Africa. So keep your eye on the CIVETS. And finally, the sad reasons for international mobility, which is economic volatility and also political disruptions at home that really force people to look outside their own country, or they find that it's safer to study abroad, or it's more possible to have a continuous education abroad. We've set up, as many of you know, an emergency student fund and a scholar rescue fund that help us, both students and scholars, find a way to study and do research abroad. The emergency student fund in recent years, with help from many of you in the room, has been able to let students from Syria, Libya, and Iraq, and Japan continue their U.S. education despite problems at home. And I'm very excited to announce that we're going to be launching tomorrow a special emergency fund for Philippine students in the United States from that central island area, which was so terribly hit by the super typhoon. So we're going to be putting out a call to all U.S. higher education institutions that host students from the Philippines. They can nominate 2 or 3 students from their campus who are most in need. We will be accepting nominations until early December, and then trying to make decisions very quickly so that before the winter break, those students will know that they're able to get some support to stay on and complete their degrees in the spring, or at least continue their education. So there'll be an announcement of that on our website, and happy to take your suggestions for how we could best proceed there. I'm going to turn it over to Alan to field questions. I'm sure there will be a lot of them, and again, we thank all of you for your support, both in helping us collect the data and in helping the students really have the benefits of this international mobility.